I'm Dr. Duke with the New American. Well, today I want to talk to y'all about the NBA, the National Basketball Association. And this is one of I think, the more depressing stories in American life today. We have a situation where highly paid, multi-million-dollar NBA athletes who are incredibly outspoken about their dislike, their contempt of Donald Trump, their aggravation with the police, their discontent with American culture. You've got these highly paid athletes. Some of them actually describe themselves as slaves in the NBA, the woke NBA. The man in charge actually decided that they were going to get rid of the term owners, right? That all the men, the people, including Jeannie Buss, all the men and women who own NBA teams, they are actually full-blood owners of these teams, now shouldn't use the word owner because that elicits images of slavery, as if $100 million athletes, black athletes, are enslaved by somebody who owns the team using the word owner. But this is give you a sense of how woke the NBA is. They have routinely, it's not just the players either. I mean, we've had Lebron James, a number of other players, speaking out very vocally about social issues, about Colin Kaepernick, about the things that we would consider to be, in some respects, disrespecting America. You've got the coaches, too. Greg Popovich is one of the more big-mouthed progressive coaches in the NBA. He coaches the San Antonio Spurs, and he's always got to insert his political 2 cents into almost every conversation and every interview he has. He's kind of the Robert De Niro, equally washed up, the Robert De Niro of the NBA. And so he's always got to take his shot at Trump, take his shot at American culture. So what happened? We have a situation where Hong Kong is being repressed. The Chinese government is cracking down on free speech and individual liberty and the right of association and all sorts of rights that Hong Kong people had gotten used to under British rule. Now that they've been handed back over to the Chinese are beginning to become more repressive. And, of course, the NBA does incredible amounts of business with the communist Chinese. Bringing a national American basketball to the Chinese market is a big moneymaker. The Chinese seem to have quite an appetite for basketball at that level. The NBA is the premier league in the world. And so there's all sorts of shoe deals and marketing deals and jersey deals and game deals that the NBA is profiteering from now. With a country that has the worst human rights record in the world outside of North Korea. And we don't know for sure because we just don't know much about what takes place in North Korea. But outside of North Korea, the Hermit Kingdom, where there's a wall of silence, we know that China is the most brutally repressive nation in history right now. They have an actual functioning gulag called the Laogai, where political prisoners and dissidents and Christians and Uyghur Muslims absolutely disappear. Over 1 million Uyghur Muslims now imprisoned and turned in what can only be called concentration camps. These are the same NBA athletes and NBA activists who call out our border policies, the fact that Donald Trump has separated children from families, we're told, on the border, something that, by the way, Barack Obama did, and the woke NBA players had nothing to say about it. The idea of caging children was a hallmark of Barack Obama's border control measures. We heard nothing about it. The Trump administration simply extended those policies, continued to use them. So the NBA was all over it, right? Trump and our border policies and the way we treat our people, the way we treat black people. It's interesting that you never hear any of these woke NBAers talking about black-on-black violence in Democrat cities like Chicago. Blacks killing blacks, which is a much greater problem, much more casualties, much more life taken than the stray lone nut white gun shooter. Nevertheless, you can't talk about that. And so now we have the conflict, the crisis of two cultures. NBA wants to do business with China. We have a Houston Rockets official by the name of Maury who actually came out and said that he supported Hong Kong, right? Good for him. He used his own personal Twitter. He wasn't speaking on behalf of the Houston Rockets basketball team. He simply said he supported Hong Kong and he supported free peoples everywhere. This caused the censorious Chinese government to do what they always do, overreact and throw a fit, demand that the man be fired. It was an international firestorm. Cowardly American businesses like Nike removed Houston Rocket jerseys from their Chinese stores so as not to offend the Chi-Coms. But most alarmingly, you have many of the wokest of woke basketball players represented in the one figure of LeBron James, who is the sort of woke guru of the NBA. People sort of follow his lead. LeBron James has said some embarrassingly ridiculous things about this, lambasting Maury and calling Maury ignorant, that maybe Maury should study some history before he spouts his mouth off. And, of course, to the surprise of nobody, LeBron James was absolutely eviscerated on social media. Even moderately liberal voices went after him, saying, "Dear LeBron, you open a history book. The communist Chinese have perhaps killed more people in the history of the world than anybody else. Perhaps as many as 100, 120 million people have vanished since the Great Leap Forward, since 1948 when the Chi-Coms took control of China, the end of the 1940s. This has been a bloodbath. And again, you have an entire Muslim minority, 1 million strong, who have been systematically funneled into retention camps, what we might call concentration camps, re-education camps. You have a huge crackdown on religion. You have a huge crackdown on speech. The Chinese government is renowned for stealing American and Western technology and not giving credit for it. This is a brutal regime. You have a president, Xi, who's an actual dictator. He elected himself president for life. And you have nothing to say about that. In fact, you, LeBron James, and your NBA cohorts, and Nate Silver, you basically turn your attention to America. The response from people like Stephen Curry, the great shooting guard for the Golden State Warriors, LeBron James, other major leading NBA stars as well, basically said, well, we don't know anything about China. We love China. We love doing business in China. Read, we love making money off of Chinese exploitation. We aren't going to talk about this. We are going to defend the Chinese for being angry at Maury. We support the fact that Maury should have been punished much more for daring to speak out as a free American citizen in support of tiny Hong Kong. And really alarming stuff like that. LeBron was told, read a book, LeBron, study up on real oppression. How can you, NBA stars, with a straight face, label Donald Trump a fascist, a dictator, a Nazi, a murderer, a racist, a tyrant, and a thug? And if you believe that, more power to you. This is America, LeBron. You can say stupid things. But then turn around and act as if the Chinese premier and the Chinese government are somehow rational business partners. Here's a question for you, NBA. You're making billions off Chinese markets, while Chinese child labor is working 16 hours a day for pennies on the dollar to make your shoes and your jerseys and your basketballs and your sweat socks and all the accoutrement that comes with taking advantage of this kind of incredibly repressed labor market, this brutally oppressive labor market that we see in China. How do you square that circle? You can't. And so we want to talk about hypocrisy. We want to talk about highly paid millionaires like Colin Kaepernick, who had a $40 million contract before he left the NFL and then got a $40, $50, $60 million settlement from the NFL, right? Never has opposing capitalism and free markets and American society, never has it been more profitable. You can become traitors to your country. You can hate your country. You can spread lies about your president. You can act as if you multimillionaire basketball players are the equivalent of slaves, and the owners of these teams are nothing more than slave masters. You can argue all you want that may be true, and this is America. You can lie. You have free speech. But when you start cozying up and sidling up to genocidal murderers, to tyrants and dictators and thugs who run gulags and concentration camps, child labor is providing much of the goods and services that you are selling for the NBA. It doesn't make a lot of sense. It's time to wise up. And most alarmingly, after all of this public ridicule, LeBron James doubled down on it, saying something as follows, right? We don't have to care about everything. Not every issue is our issue, LeBron said. We can't be responsible for all the different issues. My goodness, can you imagine if a Republican had said that? Can you imagine if a Republican had said that about some social justice issue dear to the hearts of lefties? It would have been a career ender. But the fact that these athletes get away with it is because their historical ignorance comes from the left, and we never correct leftists. The leftist premise when it comes to writing history is to rewrite it. So America's the problem. America is the fascist state. America is the home of racist eugenics. But the communist Chinese are somehow benevolent dictators. They are basketball-loving free enterprise people who are willing to pay us a lot of money. So we'll keep our mouths shut. Very, very disheartening. Sometimes, LeBron, better to say nothing. Better to say nothing at all than to say something that's going to make you sound like an absolute fool. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Dr. Duke with the New American Magazine, and this has been my take on the news.